Peace, what's up? This is Jarrell with Quantum Light Consciousness. Today we're going to talk about graduating fourth density. Okay, so this is going to be an extension of my last video where I kind of went into like the basics of like being grounded and the differences of being grounded of someone who's totally embodied in the physical, as a soul level actualized while they walk in two worlds, and the perspective of somebody who's in the third dimension who is in spirituality as well, and how those two are the same and different. So it's pretty obvious if you look at the world, you see the scope of like the psychological mindset that the collective population is at. It's easy to see that most people will just believe the narrative of what has been taught to them since they're in grade school, and the narrative of the wars that have been taking place on the planet since, we'll just say the last century. What fourth density is understanding that perception is everything. And when perception gets introduced into the game, you get the perspective of news being a narrative and being a huge leverage point for power over the individual people who fuel the economy and who fuel the companies who are directing the power over the people. And when you get to see the intention of those companies and those corporations, it's quite obvious why they would want to push a specific narrative over one other narrative. Okay, say one narrative is for world peace and the freedom of all funds and sovereign nations, and the other is for total collective confusion and endless war for profit. As long as you can see the stuff happening, like, you can kind of not get caught up in the total confusion that most people will just spoon feed the stuff to themselves and to their kids. Okay, so it all comes down to like you understanding intention. Okay, and I like to see people who are in the power of like major like corporations like say conscious things and make conscious moves. Like Elon Musk recently, he was on the Joe Rogan show, and he like said, like, he's like sitting there with that dude, and he's just like, you guys know what a corporation is, right? Like, a corporation is actually an artificial entity. Like, that's what he said, like blatantly live on air. Alright, this is the dude who created PayPal. This is the dude who basically made it normal. He was the first person to make electronic funds widely transferable across the globe. Okay, what he said was, corporations aren't people. Okay, so if you think about that, it makes a lot of sense. Okay, you see corporations in the news, like, oh yeah, just another corporation in the news acting like they don't have souls, like acting like it's soulless. Like, what's that corporation up to today? Oh, they're putting their workers in cages in their warehouse. Oh, they're buzzing their workers because they're not working fast enough. Oh, they're cutting their pay. Oh, they're blocking homeless from getting shelter. Oh, they're passing drug laws to make drugs more expensive, like actual pharmaceuticals more expensive. So back to Elon Musk, he says corporations are not people. All right, so if you look into a boardroom, okay, at the top of that table you have the CEOs at the top of the boardroom table. Okay, so you got the people, you got the CEO. All right, they're calling power shots. They think, oh yeah, we're going to do all this stuff, we're going to manifest all this stuff. We're going to get power, and we're going to generate a lot of money and cash and influence in the marketplace, which is totally fine. Booming economy, everybody gets a fair slice, right? Wrong. All right. So basically, what you do is you look at the corporation, you look at the top level of the people on the corporation in the boardroom, and then you see the people at the boardroom table, and you see the person at the table. And you basically just put a dark net over it. There you have it. That's corporation. Okay. That's a corporation. They're controlled by dark energy. Alright. Now, like I said in the last video, most large types of corporate buildings are positioned on ley lines, on energy lines, to funnel all of that energy, all that vibration that they generate up into an etheric net, so they can have more control over the manifestations that they create in the physical. So they're at the top of the boardroom, right? Positions at their tables, right? They think they're calling the shots, right? They're controlling their little game, right? But like, of course, like I guess they know they sold themselves to like have power and influence in the physical. However, that intelligence that they sold themselves to isn't exactly human, nor is it intelligent at all. It's artificial, if you want to call that intelligence. Like, sure, like it's not a person, okay? So if you look at a factory, if you look at a warehouse, what you look at is a human factory, all right? You look at the corporation who controls that, like, those people think they're controlling a company and they're not controlling shit. Like, sure, they may be Harvard educated, they may be able to talk and sell themselves out of a paper bag, like, they may be very, very talented at what they do. However, their integrity is not matched with their core innocence of pure intent. Like, they're gone. Like there is no person like who can say that like if they control a company, they are in total control unless they have not gone public. When you see corporations acting out of ill intent, it's kind of like obvious that the net of control, the web of control, is a perspective to be acknowledged and is a perspective to understand that is valid. Alright? Like, not many people will acknowledge it. Not many people will acknowledge what money actually is. Alright? Like, a lot of people don't even know what the dollar that controls the entire physical existence that they have walking on the face of the planet stands for. They do not know the value of it. They do not know that it has been manifested out of a fucking number on a goddamn screen, okay? Like, that piece of paper that controls your life was put into play out of somebody's asshole. Like, they took it, it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna make this number. Now you have to work this number of hours to pay this fucking imaginary number that I just made up out of my head, like, out of my ass. Like, whatever it is, like bankers, they're goddamn assholes. Like, literally. So when you get through fourth density, you see the illusion for exactly what it is. Like, many people may not call it illusion, they might just call it, oh, like, you're just calling it illusion because you want this to be like that and you can't do that, so you see the world like this. Like, sure, you can say that. However, illusion is subjective to the person who is viewing the reality from where they are viewing it at. So when you see yourself getting into a situation where you may feel like you are the only person with that specific perspective and everybody else is either brainwashed or everybody else is just totally comatose, walking around just, you know, totally puppeted by their subconscious, you remember what's true for you, and you understand that illusion is directly related to what you personally have to deal with in your everyday experience. Alright, now that's huge. Illusion is a lot of people's reality, alright? And you saying illusion is like kind of like kick or stomping on somebody else's reality. It's like, what do you mean that shit's not real? I gotta deal with that shit every day. You gotta deal with it too. You know, it's like you are going to trigger some people. However, that doesn't mean what they have to deal with isn't entirely based off of actuality. Alright? So, to shortcut illusion, to shortcut the long way around, to have to experience lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, you could see illusion for exactly what it is. I say other people's thoughts and emotions are relatively an illusion because most people are puppeted by their shadow self. Alright? They're puppeted by their thoughts and emotions that they have not totally processed from their soul. Alright? They would not be worried about what's going on in the fake news media if they were able to see from the own eyes of their own soul. Alright? And the same thing with like material status, like material over amounts of accumulation of possessions and physical objects. Like, once you have one nice thing, like, why do you want like 18 more? Like, you realize that it's just like you want to be loved. That's it. At the end of the day, That's all you want. You want to be loved and admired by the peers and by the individuals around you. So it's like the more you have, the more respect, status, attention you get. Therefore, the more you're loved. Like, you realize that it's all fake. You realize all that stuff is just fake. It's just a false timeline. All right, attachments. They're all attachments, outside attachments. You're trying to fill the hole in to yourself where you have not done the work. Like, and you come to the conclusion that attachment is a false timeline. That's all it is. All right. So to get through the fourth dimensional illusion, you just have to upgrade your timeline, shift timelines. All right. The way that I do it is just being a pillar of light. Okay. I sit in my center. Right. I walk in my center. I reset my consciousness every single day of my life. All right. Basically, a pillar of light that hits the ground and it goes off in all directions. Okay. And at any time, I can run out of my body. All right. Up to the pillar of light and literally move up in dimension. Right. Okay. I can move up in dimensional octave and raise my vibration anytime I want. All right. Like, if you can do that, like, your worldview changes. All right. It doesn't matter like what type of car somebody is like roaring across the street. Like, all that shit is secondary. Like, of course, you know, you need your needs met. You need to be grounded. Okay. You need to have like food and, you know, shelter and you know, your basic necessities. However, being centered and embodied in your own soul consciousness is the most rewarding thing that you can ever possibly have for yourself, because you are you preeminently. That's nothing that anybody can ever take away from you. Like, you being your own self, you seeing the world for what it is, through the illusion, like through the garbage, through the bullshit, like all that stuff is just secondary. Like, somebody's going off about like the news that happened, like, and it's just like, it sounds like that like back chatter at the end of a car sales radio ad. Like, he's like like all the terms and like hooks and like loopholes that they have to mention by law. Like, that's the exact way that people sound to you. Like the Charlie Brown, like literally the wop 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 wop. Like, literally that's how it sounds. You can't hear people the way that they speak. Like, I'm not saying this out of offense to anybody else, because there's always no judgment, only love to all beings. However, like, you are you preeminently, and you have to be you the way that you best can be you, and that's the way of life. That should be everybody's perspective on life, in my opinion. However, you know, it's just my opinion. So, peace and love to you. I'm not trying to trigger anybody out there. I hope you take this with the best and utmost discernment. You know, apply what I said based off of your world perspective. But really, you know, to raise your vibration, to get into that 0 point, watch my video on Becoming a Pillar of Light, Part 3. I talk about how you can reset your entire soul awareness and wake up literally in infinite illuminated space, like Neo out the Matrix, and you start literally taking the attachments off of your vessel. You start unhooking yourself from the Matrix, okay? Because you're caught in attachment. Like, hooks hook in, and those hooks are literally emotional, psychological, etheric hooks that have your frequency that you have been matching your entire life based off of you know, past relationship breakups, past things you always wish you thought you had done, past people who you feel like that owe you something, or people who weren't there for you, or things that you wish you had done, and things that you think that you should have done better, or you think that you should have never done, or emotional programs, emotional issues, emotional traumas that need to be healed and need to be cut and released. So that's what this blog is about. It's about upgrading you into fourth density, because, like, it's a labyrinth. Like, fourth density is a labyrinth. All right, and you cannot get out of the labyrinth until you start running the opposite direction that everybody else is running. Everybody else watching TV, eating up, what's going on in the Supreme Court, just like it's candy. It's like all these videos, they always come down to like profound dreams. They always come from like profound dreams that I have, and I just talk about it. It's like, to get out of a labyrinth. All right, last night in dream time, I was in a labyrinth. All right, I'm going around this labyrinth. I'm like, all right. It's like, seems like the farther I go in this labyrinth, it's just the same shit over and over again. So I'm just gonna get out of it. So it's like, you have to turn around and get out of the labyrinth, okay? And when you do that, you start to rise in vibration. Literally, my vibration started to rise. I was out of this labyrinth, and then I'm like cruising on like a jetliner. It's like looking down at the consciousness, I'm not even on the plane. I'm like on the tail of the plane, like surfing the plane. It's totally hilarious. So it's like just raise your vibration and just let go of what you and others perceive to be important when it does not matter to your soul. Like focus on what is most important to you while still in the third dimension. All right. So peace and love to you. If you guys would like a session, I do sessions at quantumlight.net. I do healing, I do intuitive coaching, and soul retrieval coming soon, as well as numerology. So take care. One love.